Jerry Springer, 1999.
Darling,
What else do you need? What else do you want to tell
darling,
him?
there's more.
There's more.
On New Year's Eve, I'm going to be doing Gangbang 2000.
Gangbang 2000.
You're listening to Orgy Story, a podcast about group sex. This is Season 2, Episode 1, Gangbangs. A quest to understand them. Thanks for listening.
Right now, this is my life. This is what I want to do. I want you to be involved with me. I want you to be there with me.
You want me to be there? What do you mean, be there?
I want you to be the 2000th guy.
Shout out to Sabrina Johnson for two things. One, celebrating Y2K in such a profound way. And two, demonstrating, along with Jerry Springer, a very creative example of telling your spouse you want to be gangbanged. Full disclosure, I've never been in a gangbang. So in an effort to explore the topic greater, I talked to some people who have been in a lot of gangbangs.
Okay. To date, the Dark Spartans Club is proud to have hosted 87 gangbangs successfully.
I mean, normally a gangbang lasts up to 4 hours, and I've done 29 of them. So, at this point, in the last 3 years. So.
And back by popular demand, the Doctor.
You know, interestingly, the founder of the Proud Boys came after me just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that was back in November, and he somehow found out about the show like months later and decided to spend about a week threatening me. It was an interesting experience.
Welcome back to Orgy Story. Okay. My research to better understand gangbangs started by noticing on a few of my favorite adult social networking sites its prevalence everywhere, just globally. And then I stumbled upon a very long, very helpful blog post from 2013 entitled Gangbang 101, a guide to doing your first gangbang. Very subtly titled. You can find the link in the episode description, along with a nearly complete, wait for this word, bibliography of everything in this episode. But I'd like to invite a co-host to read to you the opening paragraph of this article by @SlutLessons, as I think it's brilliant and it helps us frame the episode.
A great many women, and people for that matter, have a fantasy of being the center in a gangbang. An event where several people are fucking one person simultaneously or in a train. And though many have this on their sexual bucket list, very few actually go through with it for a variety of reasons.
This article, along with a Pornhub 2019 aggregate search article revelation that showed the women of Vermont, it was their number one pornographic search, led me to a conclusion. This is a much more common fantasy than I am aware of. The article by @SlutLessons goes on to encourage all readers to ask, is this something I want to do? With you by my side, Orgy Story audience, let's answer the question. And to begin, I'm going to call a sex friend and ask if they've been gangbanged. Hang on. Slutty friend number one.
Woo!
You have experience in this world. Have you ever been to a gangbang or been the source of one?
I have never done that. I'm trying to work my way up there, like start with some like MMF action, which I still never done. But that sounds like a blast, honestly.
So that's my follow-up question. I love talking to openly slutty people. We're way more fun about these things. Everyone else to lie to you about sex, not us. So you'd be interested. You're kind of like, oh, it's definitely on my sex agenda.
Yeah, that's not on my like to do this year agenda. That's like my to do this decade agenda.
Okay, I realize she's a no, I'm a no. Luckily, Wood Rocket Production asked some adult film stars. Thanks, Wood Rocket on YouTube.
Gangbang? Oh, gangbang. Okay, I was like, what's a gangbang? I have. I've done a gangbang for my website called Pizza That Ass.
I was a cheerleader. No, I will one day, but I have never been gangbanged.
I have been in many gangbangs.
I've done 2 gangbangs.
Yes, I have done a gangbang before.
Unfortunately, I've not been in a gangbang yet.
I've never been in a gangbang, but I've heard they're crazy.
I have never done a gangbang. I would love to do a gangbang, but I don't know that anyone really does gangbangs without anal, and I don't do anal yet. I don't know if I'll do anal, but if I do anal, I would love to do a gangbang.
I have done only one gangbang on camera.
I have in my personal life. There was like 8 guys, 12 guys for me. But I haven't done one on film.
Thank you, ladies. And thank you, Wood Rocket. I would like to transition to our first expert. Mastermind behind the Dark Spartans. All around fantastic human being to have a conversation with, Mr. C.R. Mills. But what makes for a great gangbang experience? Whether you're a group of men gangbanging a woman, trans to straight, straight to trans, men to men, women to men. What makes, in your opinion, a good gangbang?
Okay. To date, the Dark Spartans Club is proud to have hosted 87 gangbangs successfully, with minimal.
Damn, that's a lot. I want to say this to people. That's not a few gangbangs. 87 is arguably as many as anyone's thrown in the United States. Go on.
Yeah, we've been at it, and they've been multiple levels, bro. Like I said, there's not. We count every one. From the 3 to 1, the 2 to 1, double penetration. We count them all running out of the club, and we've been at it for quite some time. What makes our events successful is the energy. When you come to a Dark Spartan event, you're looking for that intensity, that sexual intensity. You're looking for that rawness. If you've looked at any of the commercials that we put out there for the Dark Spartans and the club events, we kind of try to capture that intensity, that raw sexual intensity and fun. The ability to just come and be the sexual you. And women, when women are in tune and intact with their sexuality, and when they know that this is what they want and what they like, like you said earlier in the conversation, or when we were talking earlier before we went into recording, women want to feel comfortable. Anybody want to feel comfortable being them sexually. If this is what they want, provide a space. And that's again, bro, the biggest push and forefront of what we do, man, is safety. Being safe with our gangbang.
And that mostly has to do with the main participant. And that's kind of what you're kind of focused specifically on who's getting gang banged and then the participants.
Yes.
CR spends his time on the side of the banger. There is a voice even more intricate to the experience than any other, really, the person wanting the bang. I caught up with rock band Gangbang artist Ray Ray in her hotel right before her March Colorado Springs event. Just arrived at the Hyatt House where I'm going to go interview Ray Ray if I can get to her. You are hosting a gangbang tonight, and I want to give people some context into this because you're about to embark on a 100-man Australia bang. So this is a big scale. This is not small scale, but give us an idea how many guys at one point. What's the most?
The most I've ever done?
Yeah.
31.
31.
Yes.
Damn.
And that was in Denver. So
sounds right. Our home base and easily one of the horniest cities.
It is. I thought I would break it in Portland, but I didn't. So.
Why Colorado, do you think? I'm a little curious. You've spent a few trips here. You're back after not many months. Why Colorado?
Yeah, I was in New Zealand for a year.
Okay.
And I think Colorado, because it's more liberal, it's more open to this sort of thing. So.
Weed, horniness. I don't know.
It's just a great environment. I've done multiple 20-plus gangbangs here. So.
Okay, you're at a gangbang. What makes it great? What makes it just fantastic?
For me, so I'm kind of like a video game. So I have like a level. So I really like cum. I like cum a lot, like all over my face, all over my body. So the more cum I get, the more motivated I am to keep going. But the exact opposite can happen. So if a guy takes a really long time to come, then I get frustrated and I no longer want to keep going. So the gangbangs that I've done where guys come quickly and we get through them quickly are my favorite.
I'm seeing the video game reference also.
So there's like a level. Like the more cum I get, the happier I am, the more motivated I am. But the longer it takes you to come, like if I have 10 guys in the room and you take 20 minutes, I have 9 other people to get to, then I get frustrated. So.
Okay. So it's somewhat sort of like a cum-based point system early.
It is.
And that can carry momentum, I imagine. Well, with 31 people, how many people are about to, I guess? Or is that when it's a little bit more of a waiting game?
So I don't do 31 guys at once. A lot of people think that I do.
Okay.
That doesn't happen. I think once, I think it was a few years ago, I did 27 guys, and that was like continuously. But normally how I set them up now is like 10 guys per hour. So guys sign up for like an hour slot, so like 7 to 8, 8 to 9, and then they show up for their hour slot and then they leave.
Okay. I saw your list, and we'll give a little bit of intro about you as the interview is being developed, but you have a really copious rules list, which we fundamentally support and advise. We read ours for the orgy we hosted in season 1, and it's a lot of the same notes of like shower, be screened, be tested.
Yes.
The shower one is a surprising one, we have to mention to a lot of
I know.
the gentlemen. If we're being more honest, it is usually guys that struggle in this category. What makes an orgy bad?
Well, for me, it's if you take a really long time. So, like, I have, let's say I'm going to do 50 guys. I have 50 guys I have to get to. If you take half an hour, then I only have half an hour to get to the other 9 guys. So you need to come and be prepared to come quickly. You can come again, but, you know.
This is a rarity, too, that guys are encouraged to come quickly.
So,
it's just not the norm in terms of, so you're saying if you're coming to a gangbang, and I think it's something people worry about orgy gangbang wise, like how should I come sexually? Should I come prepared to F for the night, or in your experience a little quicker is better?
So I'm one of those women that doesn't like to have sex forever. I am happy with quickies all day long. I'd much rather have quickies all day than have sex all day long.
All right.
Short
bursts.
15, 20 minutes, I'm happy. And then we can go again in like 10 minutes, but, you know, quickies all the way, so.
you've turned this in, and I've now gotten the chance to also meet your partner in crime, as I'll describe him, sort of like the road show. I have been trying to quantify who I'm interviewing and how I would describe what you do, and I came upon sort of Rock Band for Orgies, because you are selling some content, you are making some professional versions, but you're also doing this as like a come to your favorite city and be a part of this gangbang. Was it something you just loved doing before? When do you take it from something that you know about and enjoy to something you become a traveling rock show for?
So I'll tell you about the first gangbang I did. Kind of explains it. So I had only done threesomes up to this point, so I had only done 2 guys and myself. And then there was a woman that I knew, her and her partner, who I'd been with. I'm also into women. Kind of.
Shout out to the ladies.
But she was doing a gangbang, and she had a thing for black guys. So she was doing a gangbang with 12 black guys. And she's like, you can come watch and see if you like it. And then she let me join, and it was just natural. I took all the guys, and I loved it. And I just knew that's what I was supposed to do.
So you did have an epiphany gangbang experience.
I did, yep.
We could not talk about this sex act without Dr. David Lay, clinical psychologist, sex therapist, shaman of the modern world. World-renowned for his ability to help contextualize conversations like the one we're having. Here is Dr. David Lay on what speaks to him about gangbangs and a few more questions.
Well, I was reviewing some research just the other day, actually, that was published that looked at males and females interested in group sex, and found that, as none of us would be surprised by, women who were interested in group sex with multiple men were shamed and stigmatized far more than men who were interested in group sex with multiple women. Or if a woman was interested in group sex with another woman and a man, that was okay. But it is it's the ultimate kind of act of sort of slut shaming. If a woman is interested in multiple men, I think we have to recognize, though, that some of that is about intimidation. It's about, intimidation of female sexuality, because, how many women can one guy really satisfy? And yet female sexuality, does not have some of those physiological limitations that male sexuality does. And
on average,
I
I hope it's even a 1-to-1 ratio. I worry it's like on average, you please 25% of one woman a year. It's like, oh, yes. Shit.
So I think that there is some of that. There is some of this intimidation of female sexuality, and also some attempt to kind of control female sexuality. One of the other things, though, we have to consider that idea of kind of sperm competition, that the presence of other men and other male sexual cues triggers and spurs greater levels of sexual excitement, enthusiasm, competition in men, and that is not just a psychological phenomenon, but a physiological one. There's research that demonstrates that when a man watches pornography with multiple men and a single woman, his ejaculate contains more sperm, and he ejaculates harder, and he gets erect again sooner, with the idea that those cues are triggering him to want to compete and get more boys out on the playing field being her vagina, to compete with the sperm of other men. The really interesting thing, we're talking about gangbang, modern kind of gangbang stuff, but a fascinating kind of aspect of this is that the history of the gangbang is actually really, really long, and and some of it's good and some of it's bad. I mean, there's even a story of gangbang in the Bible when I think it's Lot.
I was like, what chapter was that again? For those of us that might not have remembered.
Pick up the Bible again.
Yeah, and I think it's Lot happens on these two angels that are going to be attacked by a crowd, and he offers his daughters to the crowd to be gangbanged so that the crowd won't attack and kill these angels. And that's certainly triggering and challenging. But in Siberia, there was this fascinating marital rite that on the honeymoon night, the new bride had sex with all of her husband's male relatives. And the evolutionarily,
keep in mind when we get married.
Something to consider for the weddings.
Right? That's right. Schedule that in Siberia. Yeah,
they talk about the cake cutting. They don't.
Yeah, but if you think about it, they what they were doing there was ensuring that any children would be genetically related to that male husband, whether he was fertile or not.
Okay.
Oh, different times. Okay. And historically, this is a little bit of what I want to talk about, because the second thing that struck me was how vast this is. The history, before I hit you with some of the numbers I have from some popular porn search engines about like just how many categories and like on average how many gangbang videos, which I find kind of fascinating given the whole amount of videos I was able to do some basic stuff on. Historically, it doesn't feel like this has ever not been present, because even in terms of the way you hear it described, it's sort of tribal and ritualistic now, to varying degrees of being able to customize it your pleasure. But historically, give us a few fun notes outside of the Siberia. I mean, how far back? Like, are you able to see this through multiple periods, or?
It sounds like a self-promotion. My last book, Ethical Porn for Dicks, I illustrated it with what I call petroporn, these dirty pornographic rock carvings from around the world, some of them thousands of years old. And in there, I include this one picture of gangbangs carved on the rocks. Actually, there were multiple of them. There are gangbangs carved on rocks in China that are probably 5,000 years old. There are some carved on rocks here in New Mexico that are 500 to 2,000 years old. That kind of sexuality has certainly been present for as long as we have. And again, I think the complicated piece and the thing that we're really kind of exploring now is, historically, was that about masculine competition? Was it about treating the women as property? Certainly, gang rapes is something that we have to kind of consider here, is related to that history. But what we're exploring and talking about now, which I find really, really compelling, is flipping that script and now looking at it in terms of the female pleasure, the female experience, where the female is really now kind of driving this, as opposed to, as opposed to guys running a train on a girl. Now the woman is pulling the train because she's got the engine. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to use narrator powers and interrupt Dr. Lay because he just struck a chord about something that Ray had said to me when I asked her a question about, well, here's the clip. The reason I like talking about gangbangs, and one of the things I've noticed, is it's also female empowering. And as a subject, do you feel empowered during these? Because to me, there's also a feminist angle to being.
Oh yeah, I feel super empowered, and I like to be the center of attention, so that's great. I get to be at these events. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the middle of the room, and they're all looking at me, and I get to perform and make them all feel good, and they all come here for me, which makes me feel great and really humbled. So
there's an energy to it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We are only halfway through here. I want to get more to our panel, but I needed a minute to digest everything we've learned and everything we've heard. These are popular, and if you're enjoying what you're hearing, don't forget to follow us, Orgy Story, on Instagram. Tell a friend. Keep the ship afloat. And just to add a little bit of a break, I want to go back to calling. I'm going to call a set of friends. This is a couple who was actually somewhat featured once upon a orgy as the architects. I'm going to call them and see if they've been a part of a gangbang. One moment. Screaming the intro.
You have radio voice all of a sudden.
This is Whit and Kevin. We're doing Friend Interview 2.
We are interviewee virgins. We are ready to rock and roll.
Have you been the center point of a gangbang?
I have not. Not in any way that I would specify it, especially as a gangbang. Definitely have been in instances where it's like I'm the only female, so to speak, in a more than one male situation, right? And that the focus or the, the emphasis of attention has been on me. But in terms of what I would say as a gangbang, no, I have not. Not against it, but I have not.
You're preluding it, would you?
Sorry. Yeah, I think in that instance, with
if you
something
could,
like that.
Would you need to pick the guys? Like, what are your conditions? Because you're a thought out lady.
I am. No, that's 100% true. What were you going to say?
Well, I think that's the question. I mean, if you're asking me the same question, I don't know. Do we have a number?
Have you been to one first?
He kind of
It's small. Like
he kind of had.
It was a 3-to-1 ratio.
Gangbang counts.
Okay.
It's beyond MMF. It's 3-to-1.
Yeah, he definitely has.
Yeah. And it was sold as, and that's what the lady wanted. So that was the intent.
Oh, but you weren't the recipient. You were a participant.
I was a participant. Yes.
Distributing said gangbangness activity.
Yes.
All right. That's I talked to 3 friends. One of them has, and one of them kind of has through attrition close. You know what? In celebration, screw it. Let's listen to a little bit more of Wood Rocket's Ask a Porn Star.
Explain what a gangbang is.
A gangbang is a whole lot of guys and one girl.
It would be one pretty little princess like me with like
multiple guys fucking me. Like more than 2.
It'd have to be me and more than 3 guys.
Normally 5 or 6 guys.
A handful of men, maybe 3. I think 3 and upwards, yeah, that counts as a gangbang.
More than 4 people.
1 girl and 5 guys, or 1 girl and 12 guys, or just whatever the number might be.
And they all take turns and destroy her, some at the same time. Everyone just kind of has at it.
Penetrating every hole you could possibly find.
2 dicks in a hole, 2 dicks in another hole, 1 dick here, 1 dick there.
Yeah, even the ear. I'm like, are you coming? Are you coming? Any hole you can put it in, basically.
Just fucking the best day of someone's life.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much discuss your do's and your don'ts and, hey, if I'm gonna do a signal or anything, but they're usually pretty cool if you discuss all that in the beginning.
I was a pizza delivery girl and I forgot one of the pizzas, so I let the boys fuck me in exchange. And then I actually just shot my second gangbang ever, also for my website, which is going to be a Christmas gangbang.
And the biggest one I did in my personal life was a birthday present I asked my friends for.
Honestly, when I hear them explain it, I don't even know why I'm trying. Just once again, go watch that clip from Wood Rocket As a porn star. All right, let's return to our panel with rock show gangbang artist Ray Ray.
Because the part of you and I were chatting about this beforehand, I was trying to impress you with my limited research knowledge. Pornhub says 1/3 of women are looking at this. They're seeking it out. It's something they would like to experience. I'm not sure women are necessarily ready to attend one, but you're an entertainer as well. How do you kind of suggest that people get into it if they're curious?
So my advice for women or husbands or boyfriends wanting to set up an event for their partner, the first one is start slow. So first do a threesome and see if she's comfortable with that. And then add guys. So
or he's comfortable with that.
Or he's comfortable with that. You
really,
both, yeah.
Where we are in the partnership.
Yes. You both have to be very comfortable in that, opening your relationship. So first talk about it and then do a threesome, see if you both like it. And then gradually add guys from there. So do 5 guys and then 8 and then 10. Or just stop whenever it's good for you.
You're like, that was enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
The next advice is you have to have someone in your corner. So I have my partner who organizes events. He supports me. He's my security. He makes sure guys don't do certain things and they leave when they're supposed to. Without that, I could not do these events. Okay. So that's a big thing, is make sure you have a friend or your partner or someone that's looking out for you and is going to support you. And then the third thing is sexual health. So you cannot do these things without being safe. So I always use condoms unless people are properly tested. And my standard for testing is very strict for unprotected sex. So
I would imagine, especially, and that is a popular question, right? What type of protection? And for example, for tonight's event, it's condoms for the men that are joining.
Yes. I even use protection for oral if a guy hasn't been tested within the last 2 months. So.
Okay. So 2 months is about the range.
Yeah.
All right. And I usually, that's kind of mine when I'm just living a normal orgy slutty lifestyle as it is. It's like a 2 to 3 month. Mm-hmm. Strongly recommended.
Yeah. You should be getting tested regardless, like every quarter.
And we can get in, I'll hit this subject because it's kind of coming up. Are there other dangers to this lifestyle? Personally, professionally, now that you're not just doing it as something sort of secretly on the side, but that your face is out there and you're a promoter of this?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. There's potential security risks of people showing up and doing things they shouldn't or behaving badly. Luckily, I have my partner and he'll protect me. If my family or any of my friends found out that I do this, that would be disastrous. I'm sure we would get through it, but I'd prefer them not to find out. And then there's always the sexual health component. You know, I'm always putting myself at risk. I minimize the risk as much as I can, but there's always a risk in that aspect.
Okay.
So.
And speaking of, your partner, not a small human being, which is always helpful in terms of, which is a security risk, essentially. Have you had any moments where it's gotten a little dicey with some of the participants?
I'm lucky I've never had anything super bad. I've had some bad experiences after the fact with a few organizers getting crazy on me. And I had one guy, I don't like being spat on, and I had one guy accidentally spat on my face. I kind of just played it off, but I don't like that happening. Okay. So
it is on the list.
Yes.
It's on the list.
Yes. Besides that, nope, they've all been good. I think the main thing with gangbangs is there's so many men in the room that if someone was to act out, the other men would take care of it.
That interesting. Sort of a little community self-check, because and the sexual community has obviously changed quite a bit, but I would agree. I think you're going to get more people that really, this isn't a hidden lifestyle that they need to run away from. It's something they're more than happy to be a part of communally, which is a huge difference.
Yeah, it's crazy because if you have 5 guys in the room and one of them starts to act out, the 4 other ones are going to be like, that guy shouldn't be doing that, and they'll take care of it. Because I'm a small little woman. They're not going to expect me to be like, go off on him. I mean, I'm not helpless, but, I'm not as strong as a man, so.
Sure. And that was a big, I mean, those are kind of the danger notes I had predicted. Any when it comes to where you're hosting, or are you usually...
It depends on the where you're hosting. There's always a risk there. There are ways around letting the place you're staying at know you're doing events. I had a very bad experience in New Zealand. I had a woman who was supposed to come watch the event. She went straight up to the hotel desk and was like, "I'm here for the party."
Lovely.
And luckily, the person she was with played it off. He's like, "No, we're just having a meeting." But no, you can't do that. You can't go to the front desk and be like, "I'm here for the party," or "I'm here for that." You have to, keep it super low key.
Okay.
Because most places only allow like 2 or 3 in the room, and I throw very large events. So we have to strategically plan when guys come in and where they come in from. So.
And for a night like tonight, how many human beings are we talking about? How many guys?
It's 10 or 11 guys.
Okay. Which is, yeah, we're getting the fact check. Yeah, 10 or 11. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad for what's happening right now in the country, the climate.
Yeah, which I'll kind of round third on, because originally that was also going to be part of my interest. I was like, maybe I'll stay and enjoy this and experience it, because I've certainly watched the video, the Oscar Mike shoot, which is a great shout out to anything that people want to buy. You can certainly find some of these videos online, and they are worth every penny.
Oh,
yeah, no,
thank you.
It's a compliment in terms of. This obviously looks like something you're passionate about. You put quite a bit of time and effort into, which kind of gets me into, did you have someone that was an influencer? Did you see someone making this model? How did you get to the point? Who was your role model? I don't know how else to say it.
I don't know if I really had a role model. I mean, that one woman, she let me join in, and she had done a lot of events. So I asked her questions about that. And then we actually did a few events together, which was great. But really, it was just me. This is just who I am. It's what I love to do. And even though I'm doing it professionally now, I would continue to do it recreationally regardless. Yeah, I would gladly travel the world everywhere and just get gangbanged.
How do you do it? How do you travel the world? How do you decide where a location? You don't have to give away all your secrets. I assume we'll look for the book, The Art of the Gangbang.
Most of the time, it's not my decision. So if someone wants to bring me to their city, then they can. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is pay for the flight and the venue and get some guys, and I will gladly show up.
Okay. Flight, venue, people to show up, and that's not a ton, because you use some various social networking sites that we strongly recommend for this type of activity if you're looking for it, which it's much more common. In addition to chatting with you, I am chatting with some people that try and throw more, I would call them more amateur versions of yours, because 3 or 4 guys, maybe 2 or 3, no shame in that game to start.
No shame, yeah.
And I'm long on the record for orgies recommending, because I went to an orgy that essentially it was about a 4-to-1 ratio of guys to girls, and it's the best orgy I've attended from that ratio perspective. I thought, because it normally takes about 4 guys to really please a woman anyway, let alone if you're trying to. Well, what's your orgy take? Would you recommend? What's your perfect ratio? Amateur versus professional. We'll do both.
Well, for me, so I'm very selfish when it comes to dick. So that's why I don't really let other women come to my events. I've done a few events with 2 women, but I do very large events, and so it's very hard to get a woman who would be on board to have sex with 50 guys, which is my next step. So I've worked up a few women. I don't know the term worked up, but
coached up, trained up.
I mean, I've trained them. I've gone slow with them. And then over time, they haven't worked out, so it's gotten a little frustrating for me in that aspect. But so for me, personally, the more guys I have around me, the happier I am. I just feel comfortable surrounded by cock. So that's, but I mean, there are other women who would be like 3 is enough. So it just depends on the woman.
3 is, I'll give you that. Okay. So user's pleasure in terms of, My thought would be it would be difficult to manage more than like 6.
I'd say the perfect thing would be 5. So all your holes are filled, and then if you can master it, both your hands are too.
And okay. Master it indeed, because there's a lot of logistics required. Yes. Malcolm Gladwell says you need 10,000 hours to get great at anything, and people have just bastardized that, and I'm doing it again here. How many hours do you think you have of orgies?
Oh, I have a lot.
Of gangbang, excuse me.
I mean, normally a gangbang lasts up to 4 hours, and I've done 29 of them, so at this point, in the last 3 years. So.
And I do not have the mental capacity to even remotely do that math, but suffice it to say, a lot more hours doing gangbangs than most people.
Yeah, I would say.
And we just interviewed someone. She puts together women's erotica, and one of the stories was a gangbang, and it was mostly because it felt like it was kind of back. Like, it feels like the idea's back. There's more women requesting them than ever have before. But that also might be naive. What are your thoughts? Have they always been just going on, or are we in a gangbang renaissance?
I'm sure they've always been happening. I think it's with a lot of the websites and how, the climate's changing to being more open to that we are starting to see more of them, but they've always been there.
Okay. It's sort of like orgies then, where it's a contentious debate, because I think we're in a slutaissance. I think we're in sort of...
I like that term. Yep.
But there's some consternation because a lot of people would beg to differ and be like, we always have been. You all just talk about it more than maybe you did in previous generations.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just more open to it. There are especially different places in the country that are more open to it. New Zealand is not one of them. I ended up bringing gangbangs to New Zealand. There are no really existing networks for gangbangs there. And a lot of the guys, they don't like the ratio, so they want more than one woman at the event.
Greedy.
Which, it's what you like. It's your preference. I'm not going to make you feel bad for your preference, but I have mine. So, yeah. But yeah, it was like pulling teeth to get the numbers I wanted in New Zealand. I think in the largest city I went, in Auckland, I set one up, and I could only pull like 15 guys. So...
15 is not no guys, though. That is,
no.
There's clearly a supply-demand issue.
In a city of 1 million people, you would think I would get more than 15 men.
That's interesting. Okay, are you finding a similar, because now I definitely want to ask you across cultures, okay? New Zealand, a little less into it, which is surprising. But U.S.-wise, is it state consistent, or are you finding like certain parts, Ohio or Portland or Denver, are certain parts more kinky?
Like I said, I thought Portland was going to be the place to break my record because I had 85 guys RSVP'd to my gangbang in Portland, but sadly only 15 showed up.
They talk a big game in Portland.
They must.
They talk a lot about the strip club ratio. They talk a big game.
They have a lot of strip clubs there, and they have a lot of good adult theaters. I got to explore some glory holes while I was there, which was fun, but yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about you. You have a variety of sexual interests that makes you disposed to this. You enjoy cum play. It sounds like glory holes. Mm-hmm. So this was something you saw. Describe now what it's like for the gangbang tonight. What will sort of your excitement be like right as it starts? Is it still there? Is it a little bit more? This is maybe another show like? How do you...
No, it's always fun. I always get nervous before events. Even though I've done 29 of them, I still get nervous because I'm pushing my body. I'm having to meet new people and put myself out there and perform at a certain level because I have a high standard for myself. So I always want to perform well. And so how it starts off is I have to get them all hard. So I don't have any fluffers. I don't have anyone who helps with any of that. I
can attest. There's no one else here.
So I just go from dick to dick, getting them all hard, and then we just do multiple positions. I usually try to get some DPs in there. Not always successful, but DP is hard to do. So a lot of logistics involved in that.
We threw a DP party in season 1. A lot of logistics.
There is, yeah. I've mastered the side DP. I did one, and it was really cool. I was really happy I could do the side DP. It's all determined by dick length. So if you have really long dicks, you can do like any DP.
And dick length has to be a uniting factor in terms of what you've seen at different parties, but does it help to have, we get this question a lot, should people be concerned about their size for these types of parties?
I'm never concerned about a guy's size, as long as you come on my face, I'm happy.
Especially if you come fast, it turns out.
Yeah, if you come fast and it's a lot, I'm super white, I'm happy. That's what I like. But no, really, there's no dick length requirement for any of my events. For double penetration, you kind of have to have longer dicks, though. It's just a matter of the fact is you're going in one hole and he's going in the other, and you kind of have to have long enough dicks to do that. So. And
the flexibility to get in that position.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'll also throw a challenge your way, the standing DP. Just keep it in the back burner.
I've tried it a few times. Yeah, I've had guys pick me up a few times, but I have yet to do the standing one.
Okay.
I want to, though. That would be awesome.
So do you climax during these? Is there orgasm components related to this, or is it more of an adrenaline rush?
It's a little of both. So it's harder for me to come during a gangbang because my mind is all over the place. So when I have like 5 to 10 dicks around me, I'm focused on so many other things besides coming, because coming's all mental. It's in your head. And so mentally, I can't really get to that spot. Sometimes I do during double penetration or like being fucked in the ass. Really makes me come easily, but it just depends. But normally during an event, I don't come as often as you would think.
Okay. I can't. So I did a nude story. I'm a comedian by trade. Is how I got into this, and I did a naked storytelling show where I was doing nude comedy, and it was like, am I going to be more worried about my nudity and that interaction, or am I still just going to be worried about performing and the jokes? And I was mostly just still nervous about performing and the jokes. Do you kind of consider yourself giving people an experience then when you're doing these? Because you said performance, like you want to...
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a lot of other things, like tightening my pussy or keeping my mouth open or like deep throating a guy. Like my mindset is focused on the other person's pleasure so much in an event that I can't think about my own. And then sometimes I'm just overloaded and I end up like squirting or whatever, but it just depends on the event.
That's a good sales pitch to people, because they're like, well, now I have to arrive because I might be at the squirting one. So
yeah, you might. Sometimes I just happen to do it. Spontaneous.
Mid gangbang.
So, yeah. I've soaked a few sheets. So, yeah.
You can find more of Ray Ray, all of her links, in the description of the episode. Now back to CR. We're all here for it. We're here for it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to steer you towards our topic of the day, because otherwise you and I will get distracted and spend about 41 minutes talking about the Jordan documentary. You are the man.
Fucking crazy. Okay, yeah, go ahead. All right, let's go.
You are the man I want to talk to about hosting gangbangs. I have been doing my research. There's not a lot of people that have been doing it a while. There's not a lot of people that have been doing successfully. There's not a lot of people that can offer kind of the variety that the Dark Spartans offer. And I'm talking as a fan and an enthusiast for research purposes, by the way. I just want to make that known. I mean, if it blended into pleasure. But talk to us a little bit about where this group comes from, how you're able to do this, what your process is. Talk to us about the group, sir.
Okay. Well, the Dark Spartans, well-endowed gentlemen's club, actually didn't start off as that. We started off as a fraternity, a black fraternity, way back in the day. So we're talking 2003 is when we were established. And we just used to have fucking just parties, we would have just like regular parties, and they would always turn out to be orgies.
Is this would girls just know? Would the guys just know? Would everybody just know? What do you mean? How did that happen? Because I love this story. It's an organic, interesting story.
I think a lot of alcohol and ecstasy told us that, hey, you guys are gonna be really horny here soon. Now, it was a party. Parties back in, we're talking 2003 parties. So, college sometimes got out of control,
No, well, okay, but as it starts, it sounds like it starts, and we have the retrospect power of knowing it grows, but people obviously enjoyed it as it started in college. Not
okay,
just
so we're talking that that's the base of the stew, like wild parties with a lot of hung, intelligent gentlemen, and just that whole mixture of things. And this is like the beginning of the Dark Spartans. This is the birth. Start off with just fucking insane parties. That's the best way I can describe them. Van Wilder-like parties. And then they got popular. People started talking about them amongst other fraternities, and female frats started getting in on them, offering up some of their pledges, which was really fun.
Sure. It's difficult not to be intrigued as you explain it. And when you say people started to know, did you all guide it towards a sexual place? Did you have an ability to do this? Was it?
It kind of automatically did it. It kind of automatically started. The ladies started like talking, like fraternity females. Okay, there's a fraternity. I almost told on our fifth man. There's a fraternity of hung guys that know how to party, and da la la la, and they kind of spread the word. So it started kind of getting around, and we knew it, and we didn't deny it. We kind of just started just like, because for us it was more about the hunt and kill. We were young then, so it was like young Spartan loins. Fuck the shit out of these bitches and conquer all the pussy we can. Pillage and plunder. That's what we used to say back then. No, bro. Yeah, that's it. And it kind of preceded us. The ladies kind of put the legend in, and then the light came on with this bachelor party that this very
I was going to ask, because so far it sounds like orgies. So far it kind of sounds like, well, drunkenly in college we would just kind of keep it communal, which is not that.
Okay, but even within that,
Okay.
even within that, you're talking about hotel takeovers, bro. Marriott takeovers, where we took over whole hotel wing, like brought out every room in that corridor, and literally had security up, and literally you can bounce from one room to the next like a pinball with a dick. Just ding, ding, ding. And there were ladies and
that's the America we were promised. That's it. No, I'm sorry. Go on. You were at a point, and this is midstream. That's fantastic. Okay, so you already notice now. As the CEO, you must notice you have a group that's kind of interested in this, and you must notice now there's becoming a market, which is your skill.
Okay, yeah, and then I saw that back then. So, like back then, we like it kind of clicked on when we got offered to do a bachelorette party for a female, and this guy coughed up a lot of money, and she wasn't young, she was hot, mind you, but we were still kind of young, and she wanted at least 5. So, it was not a huge party or a huge event. It was more of a consolidated gangbang. And we were like, what? Like, there's like somewhat of a market for this? There's a market for gangbang, really? And that's kind of how it started. It's kind of how it spent out, because looking into it, there actually kind of was a market for quality professional men. It's not just about being hung or having stamina and being a bull, because there's actually a lot of guys that are bulls, and you don't have to have like super fucking big dicks to make a woman squirt across the room. It's about precision in your skill on how you swing your sword, but at the end of the day, it's about chivalry and knowing how to court a lady and make those pennies drop. So,
well, and this gets into my question: how do you build a group that you trust? Because I'll go ahead and skip ahead for some of the listeners. You grow from a group that people kind of recruit you to, and it sounds like you almost accidentally stumbled into this bang territory, into a place where it's like, oh, this is something we can do. And this is a common question we get. How do you start to build a group that you trust you can recreate that type of energy and fun with?
Like with any kind of establishment, it's about setting a tone, setting the language. Our parties, because the central core of the parties is still there, because like the mad scientist that started it all is kind of still there. It's me. So I'm still there, kind of tinkering and still fueling these events, and I have a lot of these.
We're going to get to running of the bulls and some of the events coming up for sure in the CEO magic. And that's why you're the source here. It's how do you, because it seems, I was just going to say, it seems a little bit like something you're gifted with. It does seem a little bit like you're able to be like, look, I screen the guys. I can kind of tell through experience and intuition if they're interested in being a part of this group, because you provide multiple types of events. I'm hitting you with like multiple questions on top, but should we talk members or the types of events you create first? I mean, as the expert.
Let's talk members. I'll stay on page a little bit. No, let's talk members. These gentlemen come to us. They come to us through certain channels. Now that we are more public, I wouldn't say that we are totally public, because you still have to go through the ropes of registration. But it's still there, and we've lightened up somewhat on some of the restrictions to become a Dark Spartan. But at the end of the day, it's still there. The protocols, and one of the main protocols that we absolutely demand is annual testing, and that's STD screening. Full panel, man. There's a lot of creepy crawlies out there, and we absolutely have to be conscious of that.
I'll actually give you a shout out here. When I contacted you about interviews, you also kind of assumed I was just contacting about the events. You were like, hey, you need to have been tested in the last 3 months. And so I'll give you like a huge shout out. No, I was impressed. I was like, you're saying yearly testing. That's not what I got. When I reached out to you, you were like, look, if you'd like to come to an event, you need to be tested in the last 90 days. I was like, oh, damn. This guy's on fire.
Sorry, bro. Sorry. I wasn't aware.
You're right, though.
I had to.
It's good
to understand the nature of the business of what you were calling. No, bro. That's the way it is, and and it has to be that way. That's one of the things that make the Spartans popular is that when we're talking a gangbang experience, a lot of the ladies that enjoy these experiences, they want to experience it. They want it fucking no holds barred. They want to feel raw.
They want no
dick.
condom. They want a no condom
raw
experience.
Dick. Raw man power dick. Just raw power, raw dick. They want to come and see Buddha flipping pancakes with Darth Vader, man. Like,
And I wish there was a better way to explain it, but this is transcendental. You're right. I mean, there becomes a certain raw requisite, and not everyone feels that way. But a lot of people do feel that way. So it's it's something, but it is something you accommodate. But I've noticed it's also only something you accommodate with a lot of rules.
I'm going to say the women that we have had the pleasure of pillaging, they wanted it savage. They wanted it. That's the best way I can describe it, bro. Savage. They're dark Spartan women, and they come with it. So
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to be impaled by dick in every hole, naturally you have a sexual appetite that is pretty formidable. And we have encountered women that we have banged literally for hours. Like they have cried on the dick, and in the editing, it's like, the husband will go and say, "Honey, are you okay?" And she got fucking tears and slobber and shit fucking pouring out her fucking face like somebody just doused her with a bucket. And she looks at him and pops the dick out of her mouth and goes, "Oh, honey, I'm fine. I can't believe I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I'm experiencing it." So it's like,
there's the thing here. Yeah.
Yeah, like.
Finally, to help us finish this episode, and I am so upset because I don't want to, back to Dr. David Lay. How do you broach this subject with yourself first and then with others if this is something you think you want versus you think is a fantasy that you're just entertaining?
The conversation I recommend people have with themselves is, how do I feel about my sexual fantasies? How do they make me feel? Do I think those sexual fantasies mean anything? Do they say anything about who I am as a person? And particularly, is it bringing up feelings of shame? And if it's bringing up feeling, you mentioned how there are so many people who are very, very strongly kind of concerned about this and yet really want to have it. That is the way this works. The more shame and taboo this fantasy is, the more exciting and powerful it is. One of the things that I'm sure you noticed is that many of these gangbang fantasies are driven by interracial kind of issues with, cross-cultural, cross-racial. What's interesting is if you look in different countries around the world, in many countries, the gangbang by black men is a significant feature. But in Europe, we're now seeing a rise in gangbang with Arabic men or with Turkish men, where that ethnicity is now rising up in terms of creating some conflict, creating some psychological kind of cultural conflict that feeds the arousal. It feeds the excitement. It makes it more stimulating when you're doing something naughty. And, doing something naughty, not just with a bunch of guys, because then wow, she's really a bad girl if she's with a bunch of guys, but she's with a bunch of guys that you're not supposed to be sexual with. And that is even more arousing and exciting. So I encourage people to dive into that in themselves. What do I think about this fantasy that I have? And to do that conversation with yourself when you're not turned on. Don't have that conversation with yourself when you're masturbating. But have that conversation with yourself when you can be kind of calm and collected and examine those issues. You mentioned Mississippi. Can we imagine that there are probably more kind of interracial gangbangs in those sorts of Bible Belt states where there is much more stigma and shame around interracial relationships, around slut shaming, and what I'm interested in is, exploring what happens if you take some of that shame away. Does the sex stop being as exciting, or do we get to have it and then not feel shitty afterwards?
How do you sort of combat that feeling of shame?
That is kind of the $1 million question right now. One of the big ways that I do it is working with people around their values and working with helping them to understand where the shame is coming from. Because, for instance, and over the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing the huge national sensation around Black Lives Matter and really confronting the history of racism. Many of us were raised with racist values. Many of us were raised in families and communities where racism was just sort of accepted. But most of us no longer endorse or allow that. How did that change? Just because we were raised with those ideas doesn't mean they can't change. When we look at our ideas about sex, the ones that make us feel ashamed, we start to examine and understand where they came from, and then we get to question, do I still believe that? The same way we are now questioning our racist beliefs that we were raised with. We now get to choose, do I still endorse that? Do I want to let that be part of me? I was thinking about this episode and this conversation with you guys, and I was remembering a woman that came to me a few years ago who, amongst other issues, she was concerned that she was addicted to gangbangs. And she felt like she couldn't say no to a gangbang. She really, really loved it, but she knew if she got exposed, she was a fairly prominent, actually, Republican politician, and she knew if she got exposed doing these gangbangs that she would lose her job. But she couldn't really say no. And so rather than me telling her, don't do gangbangs, you shouldn't do gangbangs, we talked about what she got out of it. And she had been raised in a really conservative family. She had never been taught that women were allowed to be sexual or assertive or beautiful. And she found out that not only could she be very sexual, she was really, really good at it. And she loved the feeling of being dominant over multiple men, being able to say to guy after guy after guy, yeah, I want you, I want you, I want you, to be the center of attention and to kind of drain these men and walk away empowered. So rather than trying to stop her having gangbangs, because I didn't care if she had gangbangs. I didn't want her to lose her job and be shamed about it. Instead, we started focusing on helping her to get those feelings other places in her life. And we helped her to now start to accept those aspects of herself, her femininity, her sexuality, her confidence, her assertiveness, and to express them other places in her life so that she wasn't dependent on the gangbang as the only place where she could feel good about herself. We ended up in a place where now she could have a gangbang if she wanted to, but if she didn't feel like she was missing out on feeling good about herself.
Want more of each interview? Great. I'll be releasing the entirety of each conversation in the coming weeks. They're all too great not to share every part. But this episode started with a quest. That article, the consideration, do I want to be gangbanged? Do I want to be a part of one? After a thoughtful amount of research, I don't think this will shock anyone that, yeah, I can think of multiple scenarios, fantasies, and mixed human interactions this bi guy can't stop imagining, but it's also scary. Maybe like anything we were told was naughty, that's what makes it great. I'll make you this promise, Orgy Story audience. When I do participate as either a bangee or banger, I'll share the story. Thank you to Ray Ray at Rockborn All-Star or Ray of Sunshine 529. Ray Ray Live. To CR Mills at Erotics with an X, EliteStudios.net. The Dark Spartans. Check out the Dark Spartans. Dr. David Lay at Dr. David Lay on Twitter. David Lay PhD on Instagram. To Slut Lessons, slutlessons.wordpress.com 2013. You can Google it. To Word Rocket on YouTube. To the Pornhub results article. And to our sex friend interviews. Thank you so much. This has been Orgy Story.